How you doing, Rahel?
I'm well, thank you.
So I'm talking with Rahel Anne Bailie, and we're here at Information Development World. And on the first day, before we sort of got to the two-day event, we had full-day workshops.
Yes.
And you facilitated a big workshop called
Content Strategy in a Day. We had 30 people from all over the world. It was fabulous.
So content strategy in a day, it's so enticing because it's like, okay, I got a day. I can invest into this. Let's see, how can I do this? So can a real content strategy be done in a day?
Well, the content strategy itself can't be done in a day, but I teach it in a day because it's almost like a boot camp. And it's really meant for people who are already seasoned communicators or managers. And what they discover is that they know how to do 80% of it already. What they need is a framework to put it into, all the activities, some sequencing of what you do first and second and third and so on, and why you do it and how to get the buy-in. And then they go away thinking like, okay, I've added these bits, these missing bits in. I have a framework now for it, and I can take it back into the workplace and implement it.
So what you're doing is you're spending a day learning how to rock the content strategy.
Basically, yes.
And great. So what is usually, I mean, is it really just understanding what goes into that sequence, that framework that usually stands between folks successfully creating a content strategy, or would you say there's some other things?
Well, I think there's a lot of misconception about what a content strategist really is, and I liken it to a management consultant. We use the same methodology as management consultants, and we just specialize in massive amounts of content instead of financial turnarounds or massive amounts of dollars.
Sure.
So really what we're doing is we're taking content as our business asset, and we're saying that we're using it to leverage that content in better ways.
So what do you think, were there any interesting sort of questions, or did you see any light bulbs go off during that day workshop that stood out to you at all?
In this particular workshop, there were a couple of very, very interesting questions, and one was about getting buy-in. And so, how can you get people to, the executive, for example, to buy in, and how do you show the return on investment on your content?
Get those decision makers to like you said, buy in on what you've spent all this time and energy putting together.
And we do use a product. I tend to use the Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner as an example, and we do that as a case study all the way through. So we have ways of showing the content that you would create for it, why you would create it that way, how you would deliver it, and so on. But before you do all of that, you need to be showing the executive that it's worth investing in the content, because you have to have some sort of return on it. Companies just don't invest in things for the sake of spending money. They want to know that if we're going to spend this money, how is the company going to benefit from it?
How are they going to benefit from it? The same usual story in the C-suite, right?
And that's why where the book idea came from. About,
so you got content strategy book, connecting the dots between business, brand, and benefits. So it sounds like a pretty holistic view of content strategy. And so how is this book an extension of what you did with your workshop?
Well, it's kind of the workshop is an extension of what we talked about in here.
Oh.
This was 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears, let me tell you. I got to know my co-author very, very well. Every Sunday for 2 years we had our working sessions.
He's in Spain, right?
Nas Urbina is in
That's
Spain.
right.
But he's also a Canadian. Canadians and content strategy seem to go hand in hand. So in the book, we have lots of case studies, and we show with figures, with hard figures on you spend this much and this is what happens at the end.
So you help with that buy-in that you were just talking about, right?
Yes. And that seems to be kind of my sweet spot. Is I'm a very good diagnostician, and then I can translate that into a roadmap to say, if you invest in these ways, here are the problems that you've articulated, and if you invest in these ways, this is what you can get back out of it. This is in terms of sales or in terms of efficiencies. I mean, those are, you know, your two basic ways.
In almost any industry, content or not content, it's communicating the ROI and getting the
Yes.
C-suite buy-in, which is almost always the most difficult
Yes.
thing. So that's a tremendous help in the book and in the workshop. So thanks for joining me, Rahel.
My pleasure.